I am the philosophical bachelor, and today I want to talk about the ontological argument for the existence of God. This argument is from Anselm of Canterbury, who lived in the Middle Ages and died in 1109, and it comes from his book Proslogion. Why is this argument called the ontological argument? Why is it ontological? Ontology is the study of what exists, and Anselm's aim is to prove that God exists. What is God according to Anselm? God is a being of which nothing greater can be thought of. So before we go into the argument proper, we have to make a distinction, as Anselm did, between mental objects and actual objects. Mental objects may or may not exist. That is, it might only be in the mind, while actual objects exist in reality. So how Anselm's argument goes is this. The concept of a being that nothing greater can be thought of definitely can be in the mind, since we understand this concept when we hear this concept. A thing that nothing greater can be thought of surely it cannot just exist in the mind, according to Anselm. But why? Because a thing that exists in reality is greater than merely a mental object. But why? Because this thing, if it only existed in the mind, would then not be a thing which nothing greater can be thought of, since something greater can indeed be thought of, which is something that exists in reality. Hence, that being exists. Anselm calls this being God, and because there is nothing greater that can be thought of, God exists in the highest degree. That's his conclusion. His argument turns on the notion that what exists is superior to what is only in the mind. But is this necessarily true? Sometimes an idea of an object can be better than the actual object. For example, the idea that we hold of a loved one can be better than the actual person, since we only consider in the idea the best characteristics of that person, and we may ignore or forget about the bad characteristics. But the loved one that we are thinking of is not a perfect being. He or she is not a being of which nothing greater can be thought of. For a perfect being, if it didn't exist and is only present in our thoughts, then it doesn't seem so perfect after all, since we can't think of an even better thing, which is one that indeed exists in reality. Anselm here has used conceptual analysis of the concept of what is perfect to deduce what is in reality. This method of his will not work just for any object. Just because we can think of a unicorn doesn't mean it exists. However, perfection is an interesting limit case, which is what he indeed argued for here. However, the mistake that he has made is to go from what is in our structures of reason to infer what is in reality, rather than to begin from what is in reality to reason about what is in reality. Thank you.